Hello and welcome to yet another exciting episode of iBuzz. I'm your host Nashin Bukhari, bringing you the latest news from showbiz world. In today's episode, we will discuss Johnny Depp winning a case against Amber Heard, followed by Elton John being slammed for friendship with Eminem, and of course a movie review on the latest release, Suicide Squad. But first things first, let me quickly take you to the top stories of the day. Sky News Australia barred for week by YouTube over COVID misinformation. Johnny Depp wins a case against Amber Heard. Elton John slammed for friendship with Eminem after British singer reacts to DaBaby's remarks. Amanda Knox claims Stillwater is profiting off her life. Ridley Scott's House of Gucci trailer released. And Dave Bautista says Disney should have made Drax movie instead of Black Widow. And now, moving to our top stories of the day. Months after losing a libel case against British newspaper, Johnny Depp has won a legal battle against Amber Heard, his former wife. To discuss this further, tea and radio presenter Bailey Georgiades joins us. Bailey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. What a crazy, crazy story.
Yes, indeed. And Johnny Depp has won a victory after a very long time in his ongoing legal battle with ex-wife Amber Heard. So apparently it was the newspaper The Sun that branded him a wife beater. Would you consider this media trial influential enough to shape the case against Johnny Depp?
Well, unfortunately, defamation cases are damaging no matter the outcome. And we saw that when he was dropped from Pirates of the Caribbean and Fantastic Beasts. Yes. He went from being one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood to suddenly box office poison, if you want to call it that. And so these defamation cases are extremely damaging. And I think it's why Johnny Depp, who really wants to prove himself, has gone to these kind of, cases. And so, when Amber Heard was saying that she was going to donate the $7 million US dollars and split that amongst charities, it really was, I suppose Johnny Depp and his lawyers thinking that it was a sham, trying to find out if the payment was ever made. Because I suppose what's interesting is if it proves that she's lying, it could prove that she was lying about other things too.
And Bailey, do you think that Amber Heard was rightly accused of lying about this? Because she knows there is a legal procedure with records for such activities. I mean, if she is claiming to donate the entire $7 million of her divorce settlement money to a charity, she knows that there is a legal documentation and procedure that she has to follow and to present it as an evidence. But apparently she is unable to present any evidence. So how would you say that she took this bold step of claiming to donate $7 million?
Well, my take on this, and it really is my opinion, if you've got something to hide, you do it. If you have nothing to hide, by all means, you end up showing that. I don't understand why ACLU doesn't want to show that, yes, Amber Heard gave us the $3.5 million. The fact that the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles is only saying that they received $100,000. I think this is where it all stemmed from, going, well, if you're going to make all these accusations and you're going to say these things, stand by your word and be able to prove it and show it. The fact that you're not makes me very suspicious. Absolutely.
And canceling contracts with Johnny Depp before the final verdict was something very unjust happening to his career. How would you comment on Warner Brothers' step against Johnny, which they thought is a voice against domestic violence?
Well, I always wonder what happened to innocent until proven guilty. And secondly, cancel culture, I don't know about you, but it terrifies me. People just cancel people and things without really giving it the time and really having a look. And I think social media is a lot to blame for that. There's a lot of pressure on people that they wasn't there before in the past.
Right, but then there are two opinions. I mean, people who are in favor of Johnny Depp are, defending him against this step. But similarly, the Aquaman franchise is now being pressurized to cancel Amber Heard. Do you think that these sort of demands and actions are justified against these actors?
So I don't understand why, again, my opinion, I don't understand why people's personal lives and their professional lives should become so hand in hand. I understand that obviously they are public profiles, and so their lives are splashed into the tabloids. But when it comes down to their work ethics and what they are capable of doing, should we separate those? I think that's always going to be the question that is asked, and I don't know that I have the answer.
Right. Bailey, there was something very interesting said about the Black Widow franchise, that fans say Black Widow lawsuit is Disney's karma for Johnny Depp saga. I know this is something really funny, but I would like to, like you to comment on that.
I mean, I don't know that you want to be using the words karma, and I don't know. I think it starts to become really, really messy. It's people's lives. This is what we forget about the entertainment industry. Yes, we love to watch them and we get so invested in their lives, but they're human beings with feelings. And I think that we need to not forget that.
And do you think that now the case has finally began to go in Johnny Depp's favor? There is a hope for him to be included in the cast of Fantastic Beasts?
I think at the end of the day, the truth needs to come out, no matter what that is. I'm not sure that that will actually come out, but I think it becomes very tricky when it's a he said, she said situation and there's no actual proof. And I think that becomes very, very difficult. At the end of the day, as a woman myself, I am completely against abuse against women and children, of course. But at the same time, I think that, if you're going to be accusing people because you're hurt or whatever the case is, it's a very fine line, and it's extremely, extremely dangerous because you can really ruin someone's life. So I just hope that the truth comes out, whatever it may be.
Right. And Bailey, now we're moving to our next story, which has a bit of similarity with the previous one. It's the cancel culture and expectations of supporting or dropping fellow artists. Now, Elton John was slammed for friendship with Eminem after British singer reacts to DaBaby's remarks. I would like to know your take on that.
It's such an interesting one because, in today's age, you cannot be misinformed and you cannot say the things that DaBaby said. I mean, you just cannot. When it comes to the relationship with Eminem and Elton John, I think there was an opportunity for Eminem to reach out to Elton John in the past and say, the lyrics that I was writing about wasn't about someone. It was about what the situation was that was happening. And so they had an opportunity to work together and to maybe understand each other a little bit more. DaBaby hasn't had that opportunity, obviously not. And so, in 2021, when you're saying comments like that, unfortunately, it comes down to that Peter Parker, Spider-Man, the quote, where it's kind of like, with great power comes great responsibility. And when you have a platform like DaBaby, use it for good.
Yes. Some social media users said Elton John has never spoken against Eminem for his controversial lyrics and instead chose to work with the Detroit rapper. How would you comment on that?
I think everybody makes mistakes, and I think it's always how you handle it afterwards. I think with the DaBaby, for example, getting dropped from the Lollapalooza film music festival, and also being dropped by his online, dropped as an ambassador for an online fashion brand. I think only now the apology has come out, whereas before, I think Eminem reached out to Elton John and said, I'd like to work with you, I'd like to understand better. And I think that's the big difference.
Right. And Bailey, defending Eminem, a fan wrote, quote unquote, Elton John is M's mate. I completely get what you're saying, but there is a difference between lyrics and a full-blown rant on stage. It might not seem it, but there is. So how would you, what is your take on that? Do you think that what an influential person like Eminem performs on stage, it goes side by side in their personal life, or do you think that their work life is separate than their personal life and their opinions also matter accordingly?
I think opinions do matter, but again, it's not Joe Soap. It's someone with a huge platform, with huge influence. And you have to take responsibility for what you say. If you're going to say something, you have to be able to back it up and you have to be able to live with it. And so I don't necessarily agree that Eminem was correct, But I do think the way that he then went forward to work with Elton John and to get a better understanding is maybe the way forward. And I hope that DaBaby takes the opportunity to learn from this too.
Right. But Bailey, last but not the least, it is the social media comments or social media influence that actually matters. I mean, it's scary how social media influences decide for an artist and their career. So the pressure that is built on this community, it actually works. Like Dua Lipa had to cancel DaBaby for the next, upcoming projects with him. So don't you think that these, according to these social media influences, it is now important for an artist to keep these things in mind and, go according to the wish of their fans? Because previously there was like no intervention of fans. There was no connection between an artist and the fans. Now that there is a medium called Instagram and other, platforms, it does make a difference. So do you think that artists need to be sensitive towards these opinions?
When you put it like that, I suppose we can't be immune to the fact that social media has changed everything in the world of how we view things, how things are so instant, and how absolutely everybody has an opinion and is held accountable for those opinions. So when you put it like that, I think actually you are right, that there is a huge influence. And so I suppose it is finding the balance between staying true to yourself and what your essence is and what the message is that you want to bring, and still having to be a people pleaser. And I think finding that balance is the trick.
Right. Bailey, thank you very much indeed. It was great having this discussion with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
That was Bailey Georgiades. And now moving to other story details of the day. YouTube has barred Sky News Australia from uploading new content for a week, saying it had breached rules on spreading COVID-19 information. It issued a strike under its 3-strike policy, the last of which means permanent removal. YouTube did not point to specific items, but said it opposed material that could cause harm to real world. The TV channel's digital editor said the decision was a disturbing attack on the ability to think freely. Amanda Knox has criticized actor Matt Damon and director Tom McCarthy for profiting from her wrongful murder conviction. Damon stars in McCarthy's new film Stillwater, which the director said was inspired by Ms. Knox's legal fight. The American was jailed in Italy for 4 years for the murder of a British student before she was later acquitted. She said the filmmakers ripped off her story without her consent at the expense of her reputation. Ridley Scott's House of Gucci trailer has been released. The biopic focuses on the life and death of the Italian fashion house's heir, Maurizio Gucci. Directed by Ridley Scott, the film is based on Sarah Gay Forden's book, The House of Gucci, a sensational story of murder, madness, glamour. House of Gucci marks Lady Gaga's first feature role since her Oscar nomination in 2018 remark of A Star is Born. She will portray Patrizia Reggiani, the wife of the late Gucci heir Maurizio Gucci, who will be played by Adam Driver. Dave Bautista, who plays Drax in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, is the only Marvel actor who has commented on Johansson's lawsuit against Disney for release of Black Widow on streaming. Bautista shared a link to a report on Twitter and jokingly wrote, "Told them they should have made a Drax movie, but no." The former wrestler was criticized for making insensitive remarks about Scarlett Johansson's situation. His fans defended him, arguing that he meant no harm from the message. Scarlett Johansson, star of the Marvel superhero movie Black Widow, sued the Walt Disney Co. last week, alleging that the company breached her contract when it offered the movie on streaming at the same time it played in theaters. And that is it from our newsroom. We will be right back after a quick short break to review Suicide Squad 2021. Stay tuned. Welcome back. It's time to review the latest release, Suicide Squad. The government sends the most dangerous supervillains in the world, Bloodsport, Peacemaker, King Shark, Harley Quinn, and others, to the remote enemy-infused island of Corto Maltese. To review the movie, we are joined by film critic James Barker. James, welcome to the show.
Great, nice to be here.
So James, with most of the cast being similar to 2016 release, do you think Suicide Squad 2021 can be declared as a sequel?
I think they described it as not really a sequel and not really a reboot. So you do see some similar characters from the previous movie. You have Jai Courtney back as Captain Boomerang. You have Margot Robbie as Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. So it has some connections to the previous movie. I would call it a sequel, yes.
And this time directed by James Gunn himself, where he delivers a highly entertaining movie that is bursting with creativity and ultra-violence. How would you comment on that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I would say it's sort of similar to Deadpool in terms of being a sort of cynical R-rated superhero film. But in terms of how far it goes, it kind of makes Deadpool look like Superman in terms of the black comedy and the violence. I mean, it's very funny. It has lots of good action scenes. It has lots of these sort of quirky, interesting characters who don't often appear in DC movies. So you have like these sort of ridiculous supervillains like King Shark, Ratcatcher 2, the Polka Dot Man, who you'd never expect to see in a normal movie. It's very good. I really enjoyed it. It's almost a masterpiece from James Gunn, I would say.
Yes, and so, according to some of the critics, there were some similarities between the characters of Guardians of the Galaxy and then, you know, Suicide Squad 2021, especially with the character of King Shark, which is, you know, matched with Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. So what would you like to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar character, isn't it? It's a sort of monosyllabic character. I mean, King Shark's played by Sylvester Stallone.
Yes.
And I think Groot's played by Vin Diesel, isn't he? I think.
Yes.
So yeah, I suppose it's similar where you have this kind of this famous action star playing this character who can only say one or two words. Yeah, King Shark is quite funny in this. He's sort of this sort of classic. You know, the big guy of the team and the kind of like the dim-witted guy. Yeah, and in terms of the movie itself, it's pretty similar to Guardians of the Galaxy as far as it's about the sort of ragtag team who have to learn to work together. But obviously it ramps up the extreme elements a lot more. So it's a lot more violent. You know, it goes a lot further because it's R-rated.
Yes.
Than they can go in a normal Marvel movie, I would say.
Right. James, could the difference in direction be felt this time as compared to the Suicide Squad 2016?
Yeah, I mean, I think the David Ayer, the director of the Suicide Squad 2016, has come out and said that he wasn't happy with the cut of the movie which was released. So to a degree, I think maybe part of the difference is the studio interference and the fact that again, post Deadpool, they're more willing to take a chance on these kind of more controversial movies and give the director more kind of creative freedom. But yeah, it does feel like a classic sort of James Gunn movie. I mean, something it really reminded me of was Super from 2007, which is also kind of an ultra-violent, very cynical superhero movie with these very sort of strange characters, but you end up kind of caring about them in the end anyway.
Right. So James, do you think that DC is now trying to fix their mistakes by the help of a little bit of, you know, Marvel touch?
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of like compare it more to Deadpool than a conventional Marvel movie. I mean, I saw someone describe it as a multi-million-dollar Tremor movie, which I thought was quite accurate. Yeah, I mean, clearly DC is kind of course correcting and is allowing more humorous movies and more, you know, they're being a bit more diverse with what kind of movies they can do, but not just doing the kind of Zack Snyder overblown sort of style. Yeah, I mean, and you have things like Shazam, and also you have things like you know, the Snyder Cut, which was released recently. So clearly they're doing some course correction and they're allowing directors more kind of creative freedom, which I think is a good trend.
But there's going to be a lot of comparison between this movie and the Guardians of the Galaxy, which is about to be released in November, because of the fact that one DC movie and one Marvel movie both are directed by the same director, James Gunn. So do you think that it's going to be a tough competition between the two because of this fact?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's room for both kind of styles of movie, the DC and the Marvel movie. I mean, they appeal to people who like different things, but I suppose the difference is that these movies would have kind of a similar tone. Again, it is kind of similar to the Guardians movies in many ways, where you have these very dysfunctional characters who have to somehow find a way to get along. So, yeah, I mean, you could kind of say that they're competing with themselves a little bit. But yeah, there's room for both, I think.
Right, and James, something really disturbing happens in the movie. Without giving any spoilers, there is a death of a certain character in the movie, and this happens constantly throughout the movie as characters are killed off for the expense of a laugh. Characters that no longer have the ability to return. How do you see this?
Yeah, I mean, you say something disturbing happens in the movie. I think there's lots of disturbing things happening in the movie.
I'd like you to comment on that, Shirley.
Yeah. But put the kids to bed. Yeah, it's you have lots of gratuitous deaths, sort of disgusting medical experiments, loads of rats. If you don't like rats, this isn't a good movie for you. A big shark man eating people, body horror. Idris Elba gets into a fight with his young daughter where they're just screaming the F word at each other. Yeah, it's not a superhero movie for kids. I think it's fair to say. Yeah, and there's a particular. I think they kill off a lot of characters. I mean, there's a particular scene at the beginning where we're introduced to a whole group of characters, and then they all just die within 5 minutes. So, yeah, it's very much it very much lives up to its name as the Suicide Squad, which I like.
Right. About Margot Robbie and Idris Elba, their performances, they played their parts perfectly. But in my opinion, the character of King Shark, it stands out. How would you comment on that? Of all the characters, which one of these were your favorites and why?
I think I liked all the characters in general. I think this is the best use of Harley Quinn we've seen in a movie, really. And she gets some of the best scenes. Margot Robbie's brilliant as this sort of deranged supervillain character. The action scenes are really good. She gets some really good ones in particular. She's probably more insane than we've seen her in any movie before. But yeah, she gets to do some cool stuff as well. Idris Elba is really good. I agree. He's this mercenary gunslinger who, I mean, he obviously has some similarities to the kind of characters like from the previous movie, like the mercenary character from the Suicide Squad 2016. But he has a sort of world-weary personality, which makes him funnier to watch. John Cena is hilarious, I thought. He plays the Peacemaker, who's this sort of hardened military character. He's basically the comedian from Watchmen, but he's played for laughs. Like the over-the-top violence he does is played for laughs.
Right.
Daniel Melchior, the rat catcher. Yeah, something about her character just really clicks with the team. So she's kind of the emotional heart of the movie. And again, you know, you wouldn't expect scenes involving enormous swarms of rats to be emotional, but I actually found it quite emotional. Some of the scenes she's in, and so yeah, I think it's a really good ensemble cast, and the characters are really interesting, and that's really what makes it such a good movie.
James, do you think that experimenting with the actors this time was something that actually made the movie success?
You mean in terms of having more female members of the team?
I mean, this time the addition of actors was a bit experimented. I mean, the addition of Idris Elba and then John Cena. So how would you comment on that? I mean, do you think this was one of the reasons for this movie to be a successful one?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that Idris Elba's been in lots of stuff before. I mean, I haven't really seen John Cena in much before this, but yeah, he's really good in this. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a pretty solid cast, and Viola Davis is good as well. I mean, she was in the previous movie, in addition, but yeah, she's much more ruthless and kind of hardened in this one, which is also interesting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the cast is really good, and I like the changes they made to the team as well. I mean, I think Bloodsport is much more interesting than Deadshot, who's kind of like also the mercenary character from the previous movie. And also kind of funnier. I think Idris Elba's a very funny actor when he wants to be. So.
Right. James, it was great discussing this movie with you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for having me. Thanks very much.
That was James Barker reviewing the latest release, Suicide Squad. And that is it from today's episode. We hope you liked it. Don't forget to share your feedback on the social media link mentioned down below. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care and goodbye.